Hello and welcome to the last tutorial of CSS. Today we'll talk more about grid and its properties. And to start off, as you can see, I've made a parent div with grid container 2. You can write whatever you'd like. And I've given it 2 child divs just with grid template rows. And so in our CSS code, write your grid container or whatever its name is. And inside of it, I'm just going to give it display, just like we did last time. And let's also add in grid template columns, and inside we're going to write 100%. And let's also add in grid template rows, 80 pixels and 200 pixels. So we're having 2 values this time. And let's also add in a border, which is going to be 1 pixels, solid, and let's give it black. So now when we save, we get something that looks a little like this. And let's also give something specifically to the divs. So we're going to type in grid container 2 and an angle bracket, div. Now open and close your curly braces. And inside, let's just give it a border, 1 pixels, solid, and let's make it blue. So when we save, we get something that looks like this. So now my borders are blue for my divs. And to here, let's add in padding of 10 pixels, and in here let's add in padding as well of 20 pixels and 0, and let's add in grid gap as well, 10 pixels, let's say. Let's bring this grid gap to here so it works for our original grid container, so for the full thing. So now when I save, we get something that looks like this. And let's also get rid of the border from here. So now when we save, this is our result. And so let's imagine if these were for big text. This page is responsive indeed. And now let's go back here and let's copy this text, so this div, and let's change grid container 2 with 3, and let's another one of these grid template rows text divs, and in our code let's add in grid container 3 just like this, and let's give it display grid to get the grid functionality. And let's add in something new, which is going to be justify content. So justify content basically defines how the browser distributes space between and around content items along the main axes of the container. And so let's give it the value space around, self-explanatory by the way. And when we save, you can see that we get it right now in the middle area. Now let's get rid of this text and let's just number them 1, 2, and 3. And let's go back into our code. So right here, let's add in grid template columns, and the value will be 100 pixels, 100 pixels, and 100 pixels. So this will be 3 100 pixel columns. And let's add in grid gap also, and grid gap will be 10 pixels. Let's also add in a border so we know what we're talking about, 1 pixels, solid, and black. Now let's save, and as you can see, we get something that looks like this. Now let's fix the attention on the divs, so let's type in grid container 3 and div, and inside let's write background color. So this is just going to be normal CSS properties that we're used to, so you should know all of these by now from our videos. White, and you can add in hexadecimal values or anything that you like. It doesn't have to be exactly the same measurements as mine. And let's type in text line center, And so as you can see, I've added some easy, simple code here: padding, font size, cursor, and border, so we can see what's actually happening. So now, as we can see, it looks like this. So this code should be familiar for you. Let's get rid of this border so it looks a little bit better, so like this. And let's change justify content space around to something else, so we can change it to many other values, one of them being space between. Save. You can see the difference right here. There's also space evenly, and this isn't too different to space around. However, you can see a difference when I change it back to space around. Watch carefully. As you can see, the other one just splits them up evenly. This one is just randomly in the middle, not exactly in equal parts. We can also change it to justify content starts. This is what it will look like, so from the beginning, and there's also end, so from the end, and there's also center, so they will be put in the center of our web page. And so let's go back to our body and let's copy this. Let's paste it, change it to grid container 4, and let's add 3 more divs, and let's number them. So 4, 5, and 6. And now let's give them values using CSS. So we're going to type in grid container 4, and inside of our curly braces we're going to be giving them some simple properties. First of all, let's type in display grid. So the first thing that we need to do, let's type in align content center, grid template columns, and the value will be auto, and we'll add in 4 of these. And let's also add in grid gap for 10 pixels, height 400 pixels, let's say. Background color, let's make this white. Let's add in padding as well, 10 pixels. Pointer, cursor pointer. Now let's type in grid container for angle bracket div, so when we learn the symbols you should know what this is. And inside let's give it a border, so 1 pixels, solid and black. And let's also type in text align, so it will align our text, and in the middle, so center. And so when we write this, we now get a result which looks something like this. So now we have borders around all of our 6 divs. And now in align content, let's move this to the beginning, so type in start, and this is what happens right here. We can also change it to end, so this is end, so at the bottom of our page. And there's also the same values just like we did in the justify version, so we can type in space around. This is what it will look like. There's space between as well. This is what it looks like, and there's space evenly. This is our result. Now let's move on and let's make grid container 5. And so please go ahead and create something that looks like this. So we have 15 divs with the class item 1. You can name it anything that you'd like, and we've numbered them. And this is our grid area. Let's go into our CSS code, and we're going to type in our properties for grid container 5. Inside, let's type in display grid. Let's add in grid template columns as well, and let's give it 6 autos, just like this. Let's add in grid gap, 10 pixels. Let's add in background color as well, white, or you can write any color that you'd like. Let's add in padding, 10 pixels. Let's add in border as well, so border 1px solid blue. Let's change this blue with a black, we don't want it blue. And lastly, let's add in cursor, pointer. And after doing this, when we save, we get something that looks a little like this. And what I'm gonna do, we're gonna make a grid container for the div 5. So div, and inside, let's write background color white. You can write any color. Text align, center. Type in padding. Let's give padding 20 pixels and 0. Font size will be 30 pixels. Border, let's have the same as always, 1 pixel solid and black. And let's also have a cursor, which will be pointer. Now when we save, we get something that looks like this. And let's also give a property to our item 8, which is the grid area. So we're gonna write dot item 8. Inside of our curly braces, we're going to write the grid area property, and the properties are going to be 1, 3, 5, and 6. So now this is what happens. And let's go ahead and change this 3 with a 2. Now this is what we get. Let's make this a little bit bigger so we can understand what's happening. Let's click on inspect, and let's go down to grid container 5 and our 8th item. And as we can see right here, we can change the values to get different things. So for your web page, go ahead and do this with inspect and see which one suits your web page best, and change it in your code. And yeah, that was all that I had prepared for today. Thank you so much for watching the CSS videos.